I learned to lie about pain before I learned to escape it. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror at the Velvet Room, Manhattan's most exclusive nightclub, I carefully applied concealer over the purple fingerprints circling my left wrist. My hands shook as I worked, blending the makeup until the evidence disappeared beneath a mask of normalcy. 3 years with Derek had taught me to become an artist of deception, painting over the truth that lived on my skin. The bruise on my ribcage was easier to hide. Nobody would see it beneath my black cocktail dress, the one Derek had picked out this morning with that smile that never reached his eyes. He said it made me look sophisticated. What he meant was it made me look like I belonged to him. I took a breath and stepped back into the club's main floor, where crystal chandeliers cast diamonds of light across marble floors, and the city's elite mingled with champagne flutes and predatory smiles. Derek had secured us an invitation through his firm's senior partner, and he'd made it clear this night was important for his career. My job was simple: look beautiful, stay quiet, and don't embarrass him. The music pulsed through expensive speakers as I navigated through the crowd, searching for Derek. He disappeared 20 minutes ago to network, leaving me alone among strangers who wore their wealth like armor. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and give it a like. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more stories like this one. That's when I felt it. The weight of someone's gaze, heavy and deliberate, tracking my movement across the room. I turned slowly, my instincts screaming danger even as curiosity pulled me forward. He stood near the bar, surrounded by men in expensive suits who kept a respectful distance. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, but it was his eyes that stopped my breath. Dark, intense, and fixed entirely on me with an expression I couldn't read. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my annual salary, and he held a glass of whiskey with the casual confidence of a man who owned everything he touched. I should have looked away. Every survival instinct I'd developed told me to find Derek and disappear into the safety of insignificance. But I couldn't move. Those eyes held me captive, seeing something in me that I'd learned to hide from everyone. He took a step forward, and the crowd parted for him without conscious thought. People recognized power when they saw it, and this man wore it like a second skin. "You're bleeding," he said when he reached me. His voice was low, accented with something I couldn't place. Italian, maybe. Russian. Something that made danger sound like silk. I touched my wrist instinctively, panic flooding through me. Had the concealer smeared? But when I looked down, I saw a thin line of blood trickling from where I'd scratched myself against a broken tile in the bathroom. "It's nothing," I said quickly, pressing my thumb against the small cut. "Just clumsy. That's not what I'm talking about." His eyes moved to my wrist, to the place where makeup covered Derek's fingerprints. For a moment, I thought I'd hidden it well enough, but this man looked at me like he could see through walls, through skin, through all the careful lies I'd constructed. "I don't know what you mean," I whispered, taking a step back. He moved closer, closing the distance I'd created. Up close, he was even more imposing. At least 6'3", with shoulders that strained against his tailored jacket, and hands that looked like they could crush stone. But it was the intelligence in his eyes that truly frightened me. This wasn't a man who missed details. "Yes, you do." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't move, his fingers brushed against my wrist with impossible gentleness. The touch sent electricity through my nerves, and I gasped. "You can cover them with makeup, but you can't hide the way you move, like you're trying to make yourself smaller, invisible." "Who are you?" The question escaped before I could stop it. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips, though it didn't reach his eyes. Someone who recognizes pain when he sees it. Someone who doesn't tolerate men who hurt women. Before I could respond, Derek's voice cut through the moment like a blade. "Emma! There you are!" I jerked away from the stranger, guilt flooding through me even though we'd done nothing wrong. Derek appeared at my side, his hand immediately gripping my elbow. Too tight. Possessive. The stranger's eyes darkened as he watched Derek's fingers dig into my skin. "And who's this?" Derek asked, his tone pleasant but his grip tightening until I bit my lip to keep from wincing. The stranger's gaze moved from Derek's hand to his face, and something cold settled into his expression. When he smiled, it was the smile of a predator who'd just identified prey. "Dante Moretti," he said simply. The name dropped between us like a stone into still water. I saw Derek's face go pale, watched his grip on my elbow loosen as fear replaced arrogance. Even I had heard that name whispered in New York's shadows. Moretti, the young boss who'd taken control of the city's most powerful crime family at 28, a man whose reputation was built on violence and absolute control. "Mr. Moretti," Derek stammered. "I didn't realize. I'm Derek Thompson with—" "I don't care who you are." Dante's voice was soft, but it carried the weight of a threat. His eyes never left Derek's hand on my arm. "But I'm very interested in learning more about you." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees, as Dante Moretti continued to stare at Derek with those dark, unreadable eyes. Around us, conversations had quieted. People were watching now, sensing the shift in atmosphere the way animals sense an approaching storm. Derek released my arm so quickly you'd think I'd burned him. "We were just leaving, actually. Emma has a headache." "Does she?" Dante's gaze moved to me, and I saw something flicker in his expression. "Is that true?" I should have agreed. Should have taken Derek's excuse and disappeared into the night before this situation spiraled further out of control. But standing there, looking into eyes that saw the truth I'd been hiding for 3 years, something inside me cracked. "No," I heard myself say. "I'm fine." Derek's fingers dug into my lower back, hidden from view. A warning. I'd pay for that contradiction later, and we both knew it. But Dante saw it. I watched his jaw tighten as his eyes tracked Derek's hand. "Emma and I haven't finished our conversation," Dante said, his tone brooking no argument. "Why don't you get yourself a drink, Thompson?" At the far bar. It wasn't a suggestion. Derek opened his mouth to protest, then seemed to remember exactly who he was talking to. The Moretti family didn't make requests. They gave orders, and smart people followed them. "Of course," Derek said through gritted teeth. He leaned close to my ear, his voice a whisper meant only for me. "Don't embarrass me." Then he was gone, swallowed by the crowd, leaving me alone with the most dangerous man in New York. "You should leave him," Dante said, once Derek was out of earshot. No preamble, no gentle suggestion, just a statement of fact delivered in that low, commanding voice. "You don't know anything about my relationship." "I know enough." He gestured to a private booth in the corner, away from prying eyes. "Walk with me." Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to refuse, to find Derek and leave before I made everything worse. But my feet moved, following Dante across the club floor to the secluded booth. He motioned for his men to stay back, giving us privacy. We sat, and he poured me a glass of wine from the bottle on the table. His movements were precise, controlled, like everything he did was calculated. "How long?" he asked. "I don't understand what you mean. How long has he been hitting you?" The directness of the question stole my breath. Nobody had ever asked me that. Not my friends, who'd slowly disappeared from my life. Not my family, who lived 3 states away and believed Derek was the perfect boyfriend. Not even me, in the quiet moments when I stared at my own reflection. "It's complicated," I whispered. "No, it's simple." Dante leaned forward, his eyes intense. "He hurts you." "That's not complicated. That's criminal." I laughed, the sound bitter. "And you're an expert on criminal behavior?" Something like amusement flickered across his face. "You could say that. Why do you care? You don't know me." "I know enough," he repeated. "I know you're covering bruises with makeup. I know you flinch when he touches you. I know you're terrified of saying the wrong thing." He paused, his voice dropping lower. "And I know that fear in your eyes, because I've seen it before." "Where?" "In my mother's eyes, before my father killed her." The confession hung between us, raw and honest. I'd expected many things from Dante Moretti, but not this vulnerability, not this glimpse of humanity beneath the dangerous exterior. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "Don't be sorry. Be smart." He pulled a card from his pocket and slid it across the table. "This is my private number. When you're ready to leave him, you call me. I can't just walk away from 3 years." "Yes, you can. You think you're trapped, but you're not." His hand covered mine on the table, warm and surprisingly gentle. "I'm offering you a way out, Emma. No strings, no expectations, just safety." I stared at the card, at the simple phone number embossed in black. "Why would you help me?" "Because nobody helped my mother. Because I have the power to stop men like him." His thumb brushed across my knuckles. "Because when I look at you, I see someone worth saving." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. Crying was dangerous. Crying left evidence that would require explanations I couldn't give. He'll never let me go. I said. Derek isn't the kind of man who accepts losing. Dante's smile was sharp as a knife. Neither am I. And between the two of us, who do you think is more dangerous? The answer was obvious. Derek was cruel and violent in private moments, but Dante Moretti was power incarnate, the kind of man who could destroy lives with a word. You don't understand what you're offering, I said. If Derek finds out you gave me this, if he thinks there's something between us, he'll make my life hell. Then he'll learn a very painful lesson about respecting what isn't his. Dante's voice was cold steel. Take the card, Emma. You don't have to use it tonight, but keep it. And when the moment comes, you'll have a choice. I picked up the card with shaking fingers and slipped it into my purse. The small act felt monumental, like stepping off a cliff into empty air. I should go find him, I said. One more thing. Dante caught my hand before I could stand. That bruise on your wrist. How did you get it? I could have lied. Should have lied. But something about the way he looked at me made the truth spill out. He thought I was flirting with a waiter yesterday. I wasn't. I was just ordering drinks. But Derek grabbed me in the parking lot. I stopped, unable to continue. Dante's expression didn't change, but I felt the rage radiating off him. What's his last name? Thompson. Derek Thompson. He works at Morrison & Associates downtown. I'll remember that. He released my hand slowly. Go, before he gets suspicious. But Emma, this isn't over. Men like him don't stop until someone makes them. I walked away on trembling legs. When I found Derek at the bar, his face was flushed with alcohol and anger. What the hell were you talking to him about? He hissed, gripping my arm. Nothing. He was just being polite. Polite? Derek's laugh was ugly. Dante Moretti doesn't do polite. We're leaving. Now. As Derek dragged me toward the exit, I glanced back one last time. Dante stood watching, and he gave me the smallest nod. A promise. A threat. A lifeline. I touched my purse where his card rested, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope. The ride home was silent, except for Derek's heavy breathing. I sat pressed against the passenger door, making myself small, knowing the storm was coming but not knowing when it would break. We lived in a luxury apartment in Chelsea, all sleek lines and expensive furniture. A showroom, not a home. I'd stopped thinking of it as mine months ago. He waited until we were inside before he grabbed my arm and slammed me against the wall. Not hard enough to leave obvious marks. Derek had learned to be careful. Do you have any idea who that man is? His face was inches from mine. Do you have any fucking idea what you could have cost me tonight? I didn't do anything. He approached me. Bullshit. I saw the way you looked at him. His fingers dug into my shoulders. You think Dante Moretti would want someone like you? You're nothing. The only reason you have this life is because I allow it. He stopped, his eyes narrowing. What's in your purse? My blood turned to ice. Nothing. Just my phone. Derek grabbed my clutch and upended it. My phone clattered out, along with lipstick, keys, and the small white card with Dante's number. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. Derek picked up the card slowly, reading it. When he looked at me, I saw fear in his eyes, and fear made Derek more dangerous than anything else. He gave you his number. The words came out flat. Dante fucking Moretti gave you his personal number. It's not what you think. What I think is that you've been planning this, looking for a way out. He advanced on me. You want to know what happens to women who betray me? His hand came up and I flinched. But his phone rang, shrill and jarring. It rang again and again until he finally answered. What? He snapped. I watched his expression change. The anger drained away, replaced by confusion, then fear, then panic. I understand, he said finally. Yes, sir. Tomorrow morning. He hung up and stared at his phone. What's wrong? I asked. That was Morrison, the senior partner. Derek ran a hand through his hair. I've been summoned to his office first thing tomorrow. He didn't say why, but he knows. Moretti knows Morrison. This is about tonight. Derek, I swear I didn't do anything. Shut up. Just shut up and let me think. He paced, his movements jerky with panic. I'll go in tomorrow, explain that nothing happened. Morrison will understand. But I could see he didn't believe it. Whatever connection existed between his boss and Dante was enough to terrify Derek. He turned back to me. You need to call him. Now. Tell him you're not interested, that you're in a committed relationship. What? Use his card. Call Dante Moretti and tell him to back off. Derek thrust the card at me. Tell him we're happy together. Please, Emma. If he thinks there's something between you two, if he interferes in my career, I'll lose everything. Then what? You'll lose your job? Would that really be so terrible? His hand shot out, catching me across the face. The blow knocked me sideways. I tasted blood. You think this is a game? Derek grabbed my hair. I will destroy you before I let that happen. I will make you disappear. Through the pain, something crystallized inside me. Derek wasn't just dangerous. He was desperate, and I had to get out. Not tomorrow. Tonight. I'll call him, I gasped. Just let me go. Derek released me and handed me the card. He watched as I pulled out my phone. I didn't call. I sent a text. Help. He knows about the card. He's threatening me. Chelsea apartment, 247 West 24th Street, Unit 8F. Please hurry. I hit send and looked up at Derek. I told him I made a mistake, that I love you and want him to leave us alone. Derek studied me, then nodded. Good. I'm going to bed. Clean yourself up. He disappeared into the bedroom. I waited, counting the seconds, praying Dante had meant what he said. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Coming. I exhaled slowly and went to pack a bag. I took only what I needed. Everything else was part of a life I was leaving behind. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Outside. Gray SUV. Come now. I looked toward the bedroom where Derek slept. He would wake tomorrow to find me gone. But by then, I would be somewhere he couldn't reach me. I slipped out without looking back and stepped into a future I couldn't predict. The gray SUV idled at the curb. I hesitated on the sidewalk, suddenly aware of how final this moment was. Once I got into that vehicle, there would be no going back. The back door opened and Dante stepped out. He'd changed into dark jeans and a black shirt, looking more dangerous in casual clothes. Did he hurt you? His voice was soft, but I heard the steel underneath. I touched my split lip. I'm okay. That's not what I asked. He moved closer, his hand gently tilting my face toward the streetlight. His jaw clenched. This ends tonight. He will never touch you again. The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it made me want to cry with relief. I brought what I could carry, I said, lifting my bag. I don't know where to go. You're coming with me. Dante took my bag and handed it to one of his men. I have a place where you'll be safe. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. He paused, his dark eyes meeting mine. Maybe I'm tired of watching men like him destroy women like you. Get in. We'll talk somewhere safe. The SUV's interior was luxurious. 2 of Dante's men sat in front, silent and alert. As we pulled away, I watched my apartment building disappear. Where are we going? I asked. My property in the Hamptons. Far enough from the city that Thompson can't find you easily. Dante poured me water. You'll have your own space, complete privacy. What about tomorrow? Derek will call the police. He'll say I was kidnapped. He won't call the police. How can you be so sure? Dante's smile was cold. Because I own half the police force. And Derek knows it. Because tomorrow morning, he's going to have other problems to worry about. What kind of problems? The kind that makes a man reconsider his choices. He studied me. You don't need to know the details. You just need to understand that you're under my protection now. I should have been afraid of the implications. But sitting there, my lips still bleeding, I couldn't bring myself to care about moral complications. Thank you, I whispered. Dante reached over and took my hand. You're welcome. Now rest. It's a 2-hour drive. I wanted to stay awake, but exhaustion pulled me under. The last thing I felt was Dante's hand in mine. When I woke, sunlight streamed through windows of an unfamiliar bedroom. The room was beautiful, with French doors leading to a balcony overlooking the ocean. My bag sat on a chair, and someone had left fresh clothes on the dresser. A soft knock made me jump. Come in, I called. A woman in her 50s entered with a breakfast tray. Good morning, Miss Emma. I'm Maria, Mr. Moretti's housekeeper. He asked me to bring you breakfast. Thank you. Where is Dante? He had business in the city this morning but will return this afternoon. Maria opened the French doors. He also asked me to give you this. She handed me a small phone. He said your old phone could be tracked. This one is secure, with only his number and mine programmed in. After Maria left, I sat on the balcony with breakfast, watching waves crash against the private beach. The house was like a mansion, the kind I'd only seen in magazines. My new phone buzzed. How are you feeling? I smiled. Like I'm dreaming. This house is incredible. It's yours for as long as you need it. I'll be back around 4. We need to talk about next steps. What kind of next steps? Your future, your safety, and what happens to Derek Thompson. That message sent a chill through me. What did Dante have planned? Part of me needed to know Derek would face consequences. But another part was afraid of what Dante's justice might look like. I spent the day exploring the property with Maria's patient guidance. At 4 o'clock precisely, I heard the SUV pull up. Dante appeared in the library doorway, changed into casual clothes. Emma. Relief crossed his face. You look better. Did you sleep? Like the dead. I closed my book. Maria said you needed to talk? He sat across from me. I need to know what you want. From this situation. I want to be safe. I want Derek to never hurt me again. That's a given. What else? I hesitated. I want my life back. I used to work in marketing before Derek convinced me to quit. I used to have friends, hobbies. I want that Emma back. Dante nodded. Then that's what we'll work toward. I have connections in marketing. As for Derek, he's been dealt with. My heart skipped. What does that mean? It means he met with his boss this morning and was terminated. It means his reputation has been quietly destroyed. He'll never practice law in New York again. Dante leaned forward. And I made it very clear what will happen if he ever comes near you. You ruined his career. I removed his power. Dante's voice was matter-of-fact. Men like Derek need power to feel important. Without it, he's just another angry man. And angry men make mistakes. The casual way he discussed destroying someone's life should have horrified me, but all I felt was justice. Thank you, I said softly. He reached across and took my hand. You're under my protection now. That means something. What does it mean? I had to understand what I'd gotten into. Am I just another project to you? His thumb brushed my knuckles. You're not a project. Do you believe in fate? Maybe. I think some people are meant to cross paths. I was meant to see you last night. Meant to offer you a way out. His hand tightened on mine. I lost my mother to my father's violence. I couldn't save her, but I can save you. Understanding dawned. This wasn't just about me. This was about the ghosts haunting Dante Moretti. You did save me, I said. That means everything. We sat in silence, hands linked, both processing what had happened and what might come next. Finally, Dante stood. I should let you rest. Tomorrow we'll file a restraining order. My lawyers will handle everything. Will you come with me? Of course. Every step. He paused at the door. You're safe here. I promise. After he left, I sat watching the sunset paint the ocean gold. For the first time in 3 years, I could breathe without fear, and I admitted something that excited and terrified me. I was attracted to Dante Moretti, not just grateful, actually attracted to his strength, the way he looked at me like I mattered, which was probably the worst possible complication. But as I watched the sun sink below the horizon, I couldn't bring myself to care. I was alive, I was safe, and for the first time in years, I felt like a person rather than a possession. The courthouse felt like walking into a nightmare. I'd barely slept, my mind racing through all the ways this could go wrong. Derek would be there, somewhere in the building. He can't approach within 500 feet, Dante reminded me as we entered. And if he does, my men have instructions. I nodded, gripping the folder of evidence. 3 years of abuse distilled into Manila. Dante's lawyer, Sarah Chen, met us in the hallway. Judge Martinez takes these matters seriously. Your case is strong. Will Derek be in the courtroom? I asked. He'll be notified, but he's not required to attend the initial filing. But 30 minutes later, Derek walked through the door. He looked terrible. Rumpled suit, bloodshot eyes. But when his gaze found mine, the rage made my blood run cold. He started toward me, ignoring the bailiff's warning. Dante moved between us instantly, his body a wall of protection. 2 of his men flanked Derek, blocking his path without touching him. You have a restraining order hearing, Thompson, Dante said quietly. I suggest you sit down and behave, or you'll be removed. Derek's face flushed red. You can't do this. You can't just steal someone's girlfriend and ruin their life. I didn't steal anything. She left, because you're an abusive piece of shit. Dante's voice remained calm, but I heard the threat underneath. Now sit down. The bailiff intervened, escorting Derek to the opposite side of the courtroom. He sat, but his eyes never left me. Even across the room, I could feel his hatred. When my case was called, Sarah guided me to the stand. Judge Martinez, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the paperwork with careful attention. Miss Emma, I've read your petition. Can you tell me in your own words why you're seeking this order? My voice shook as I described 3 years of escalating violence, the bruises, the threats, the isolation from friends and family. Sarah had prepared me for this, but speaking the truth out loud in front of Derek felt like stripping myself bare. And where are you staying now? Judge Martinez asked. With a friend. Somewhere safe. The judge's eyes moved to Dante, sitting in the front row, and something like recognition crossed her face. She knew who he was. Everyone in this courthouse probably knew. Mr. Thompson, do you wish to contest these allegations? Derek stood, his movements jerky. Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. Emma and I had a disagreement, but she's exaggerating. I have medical records. Sarah interrupted smoothly, presenting documentation. 3 emergency room visits in 2 years, all with injuries consistent with domestic violence. Judge Martinez reviewed the records, her expression hardening. Mr. Thompson, I'm granting a temporary restraining order. You are not to contact Miss Emma in any way. No calls, texts, emails, or in-person contact. You must stay at least 500 feet away from her at all times. We'll have a full hearing in 2 weeks to determine if this should become permanent. Do you understand? Derek's face went white. Your Honor, I can explain. Do you understand the terms of this order? Yes, he said through gritted teeth. Then we're done here. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Thompson out. As Derek was led away, he turned back to me one last time. This isn't over, Emma. You can't hide behind him forever. Dante was on his feet instantly, but the bailiff was already moving Derek toward the exit. Once he was gone, I exhaled shakily. You did great, Sarah said, packing up her files. The permanent order should be no problem. Outside the courthouse, Dante's hand found mine. How are you feeling? Like I can finally breathe. I looked up at him. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? His thumb brushed across my knuckles. Come on, let's get you home. Home. He'd called the Hamptons' house home, as if I belonged there, as if this arrangement was more than temporary. In the SUV, Dante made several phone calls in Italian, his voice sharp and commanding. When he hung up, I asked, Everything okay? Derek violated the order within an hour of it being issued. He sent you 17 text messages to your old phone. How do you know that? I have people monitoring it. He saw my expression and added, For your safety, Emma, Derek is predictable and stupid. He'll violate this order again, and when he does, he'll go to jail. What if he doesn't? What if he's smarter than we think? Dante's smile was cold. Then I'll handle it another way. I should have been disturbed by the implications, but part of me, the part that had spent 3 years living in fear, wanted Derek to face consequences. Real consequences. Can I ask you something? I said. Anything. Your father. What happened to him? After he killed your mother? Dante was quiet for a long moment. He went to prison. Died there 5 years ago. Stabbed by another inmate. Do you feel guilty? For not saving her? Every day. His hand tightened on mine. But saving you helps. It doesn't erase what happened to her, but it gives meaning to her death. She would have wanted me to use my power to protect women like you. We drove in comfortable silence until we reached the Hamptons' house. Maria had prepared dinner, and we ate on the terrace overlooking the ocean. What happens now? I asked. I can't stay here forever. Why not? Because this isn't my life. This is yours. Eventually, I need to figure out my own path. Dante set down his wine glass. What if I don't want you to leave? My breath caught. What? What if I'm asking you to stay? Not because you need protection, but because I want you here. He stood and moved to the terrace railing, his back to me. I know this is complicated. I know I'm not the kind of man women usually choose, but I'm asking anyway. I joined him at the railing. You think I see you as just some criminal, don't you? I see you as the man who saved my life when nobody else cared. The man who's given me safety and kindness and respect. I touched his arm. I see you, Dante. All of you. He turned to face me, and the intensity in his eyes made my heart race. Then stay. Not because you're afraid of Derek. Not because you need protection. Stay because you want to. I barely know you. Then get to know me. His hand came up to cup my face. I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for a chance. Standing there with the ocean breeze in my hair and Dante's hand gentle on my cheek, I realized something. For 3 years, Derek had made every decision for me. Where I lived, what I wore, who I saw, and now I had the power to choose. Okay, I whispered. I'll stay. For now. To see where this goes. Dante's smile was genuine, reaching his eyes for the first time since I'd met him. That's all I'm asking. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his lips brushed mine in a kiss so gentle it made my chest ache. Nothing like Derek's brutal claiming. This was a question, an invitation, a promise. When we pulled apart, I was breathless. I'll take this slow, Dante said. Whatever pace you need. What if I don't want slow? His eyes darkened. Then we'll figure it out together. We stood there as the sun set, his arms around me, and for the first time in years, I felt safe enough to imagine a future that didn't include fear, a future that included possibility, hope, and maybe, just maybe, love. 2 weeks passed in a strange kind of paradise. I spent my days exploring the grounds, reading in the library, and slowly remembering who I'd been before Derek. Dante worked during the day but returned every evening, and we'd have dinner together, talking about everything and nothing. He was different than I expected. Yes, he was dangerous and powerful, but he was also surprisingly gentle, patient. He asked about my dreams, my interests, the life I wanted to build, and he listened like my words mattered. The attraction between us grew with each passing day, a slow burn that made my skin warm when he was near. But Dante kept his promise. He didn't push, didn't demand. He let me set the pace, until the night everything changed. I was in the library when Maria rushed in, her face pale. Miss Emma, Mr. Moretti called. He's on his way home early. He said to lock all the doors and stay inside until he arrives. What's wrong? I don't know, but he sounded concerned. 20 minutes later, Dante burst through the door with 4 of his men. His face was dark with rage. What happened? I asked, fear creeping up my spine. Derek. He's been making threats. Serious threats. Dante pulled out his phone and showed me a series of messages Derek had sent to various people. Messages about me, about Dante. Threats about what he'd do if he ever got his hands on me again. How did he get past the restraining order? He's using burner phones. Different numbers. Dante's jaw clenched. But that's not the worst part. One of my contacts in the NYPD said Derek was asking around about how to get to you. He knows you're here. My blood ran cold. He knows about this house? Not the exact location yet, but he's looking. And Derek has connections of his own. Legal connections. People who owe him favors. Dante pulled me close. I'm not going to let him hurt you, Emma. But we need to be smart about this. What are you going to do? His eyes met mine, and I saw the predator beneath the gentleman. I'm going to end this. Permanently. What does that mean? It means Derek Thompson is going to learn what happens when he threatens what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered me, but it didn't. It made me feel protected, valued, safe. I don't want you to do anything that could put you in danger, I said softly. Not for me. Dante's hand cupped my face. Everything I do is for you now. Don't you understand that? You're not just some woman I'm protecting. He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. You matter to me, Emma, more than I planned, more than is probably smart. You matter to me too. He kissed me then, harder than before, all the restraint he'd been showing finally breaking. I kissed him back with equal intensity, months of fear and isolation melting away under the heat of his touch. When we pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. I need to handle Derek, Dante said. But first, I need to know you're safe. I'm going to have armed guards here 24/7. You don't leave the property without me. Understand? Yes. And Emma? If something happens to me, don't say that. If something happens, Maria has instructions. She'll get you somewhere safe. Somewhere Derek will never find you. You have my word. The thought of losing Dante made my chest tight. In just 2 weeks, he'd become more than my protector. He'd become my anchor. Be careful, I whispered. Always. He kissed me once more, then left with his men, leaving me alone with Maria and 2 guards. The next 3 days were torture. Dante called twice a day to check in, but he wouldn't tell me where he was or what he was doing. I spent the time pacing, reading, trying not to imagine all the ways this could go wrong. On the 4th day, Dante returned. His knuckles were bruised, and there was a hardness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. It's done, he said simply. What's done? Derek won't be bothering you anymore. My heart stopped. What did you do? Nothing that can be traced back to me. Nothing that will come back on you. He pulled me close. Derek Thompson had an unfortunate accident. He was driving drunk, lost control of his car. It happens. I understood what he wasn't saying. Derek was dead. Dante had killed him, or had him killed to protect me. I should have been horrified. Should have felt guilt or shock or something other than this overwhelming sense of relief. Is this who you are? I asked quietly. A man who kills people? When necessary, to protect what matters. His eyes searched mine. Does that change how you feel about me? I thought about 3 years of bruises, of fear, of Derek's threats and violence. I thought about the life Dante had given me, the safety and respect and possibility. No, I said finally, it doesn't change anything. You're not afraid of me? I'm afraid of losing you. That's different. Dante kissed me with a desperate intensity, and I kissed him back, both of us seeking comfort in each other. That night, for the first time, I slept in his bed. Not for protection, not out of obligation, because I wanted to be there. 3 months had passed since Derek's death. The police ruled it an accident, just like Dante said they would. Nobody questioned it. Nobody looked too closely. Derek Thompson became another statistic, another drunk driver who made a fatal mistake. I should have felt guilty, but mostly, I just felt free. Dante kept his promise about helping me rebuild my life. Through his connections, I got a position at a prestigious marketing firm in Manhattan. Not because of charity, but because I was good at what I did. My new boss, a sharp woman named Jennifer, had no idea who I really was or how I'd gotten the interview. She just knew I delivered results. I'd also started reconnecting with old friends, carefully and slowly. Sarah from college, Mike from my old job, people I'd lost when Derek isolated me from everyone who cared. They were surprised to hear from me, but welcomed me back with open arms and few questions. Life was good, better than good, but there was still one complication I hadn't resolved. Dante and I had never defined what we were to each other. We lived together, slept together, built our lives around each other, but neither of us had said the words that would make it real. One evening, as we sat on the terrace watching the sunset, I finally asked, "What are we doing here?" Dante looked at me, his expression unreadable. "What do you mean? Us? This? Are we just passing time, or is this something more?" He was quiet for a long moment. I've never done this before. A real relationship. Everything in my life has been about power, control, strategy. But with you, it's different. How? With you, I just want to be. Not the boss, not the criminal. Just Dante. He took my hand. "I love you, Emma. I didn't plan to. I didn't expect to. But I do." My breath caught. "You love me? Is that so surprising?" "Yes, no, I don't know." I laughed, feeling tears prick my eyes. "I love you too. I've been trying not to, trying to keep some distance, but I can't." Dante pulled me into his lap, his arms wrapping around me. "Then don't. Don't keep distance. Just stay. Build a life with me." "What kind of life? You're still involved in dangerous things. You still do things that could get you killed." "I know, and I'm trying to change that. For you. For us." His hand came up to cup my face. "I'm slowly transitioning the family business into legitimate enterprises. It won't happen overnight, but I'm working toward it. Why? Because I want a future with you. A real future. And that means leaving the old life behind." The sincerity in his voice made my chest tight. Dante Moretti, one of the most powerful crime bosses in New York, was willing to walk away from his empire. For me, that's a lot to give up, I whispered. "You're worth it." He kissed me softly. "You're worth everything." We made love that night with a new understanding between us. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't just protection or gratitude. This was real. The next morning, Dante had a surprise. He led me to a different part of the property I hadn't explored, to a small building that looked like a studio. "What is this?" I asked. "Your space, for your art." He opened the door to reveal a fully equipped art studio, complete with canvases, paints, and everything I could need. I stared in shock. "How did you know I used to paint?" "Maria mentioned it. She said you'd been looking at art supplies online but never bought anything." Dante wrapped his arms around me from behind. "I thought you might want somewhere to create again. Something that's just yours." Tears streamed down my face. Derek had mocked my painting, called it a waste of time, made me feel stupid for wanting to create. but Dante had built me a studio. Thank you, I choked out. This is the most thoughtful thing anyone has ever done for me. Get used to it. I plan on spoiling you for the rest of your life. The rest of your life? That's a pretty big commitment. Dante turned me to face him, his expression serious. I'm ready for that commitment if you are. Are you asking what I think you're asking? Not yet, but soon. He smiled. I want to do this right, Emma. Court you properly. Give you the romance you deserve. And then, when the time is right, I'll ask you properly. My heart felt like it might burst. I can't wait. We spent the rest of the day in the studio, Dante watching as I set up my supplies and started a new painting. It felt like reclaiming part of myself I'd lost, like becoming whole again. That evening, as we prepared dinner together, Dante's phone rang. His expression changed as he listened to whoever was on the other end. What's wrong? I asked when he hung up. Derek's brother, Marcus Thompson. He's been asking questions about Derek's death. He doesn't believe it was an accident. Fear shot through me. Does he know about us? He knows Derek was obsessed with getting you back. And he knows Derek died shortly after you left. Dante's jaw clenched. He can't prove anything, but he's making noise, talking to reporters, trying to get the police to reopen the investigation. What are we going to do? We're going to stay calm and let my lawyers handle it. There's no evidence connecting me to Derek's death because I was careful. Marcus is grieving and looking for someone to blame. But what if he comes after me? What if he tries to? Dante pulled me close. He won't get near you, I promise. But I need you to be extra careful for a while. Don't go anywhere alone. The next few weeks were tense. Marcus Thompson did exactly what Dante predicted, making accusations in the press and pressuring the police. But without evidence, there was nothing they could do. The investigation remained closed. Marcus tried one more thing. He showed up at my office. Jennifer called me into her office, her face concerned. Emma, there's a man in the lobby asking for you. Says he's a relative of your ex-boyfriend. I wasn't sure if you wanted to see him. No, absolutely not. I pulled out my phone and texted Dante immediately. He arrived 15 minutes later with 2 of his men. Marcus was still in the lobby, pacing and clearly agitated. When he saw Dante, his face went pale. Mr. Thompson, Dante said calmly, I think it's time we had a conversation. They disappeared into a conference room. I waited anxiously, watching through the glass as Dante spoke to Marcus. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw Marcus's expression change from anger to fear to resignation. When they emerged 20 minutes later, Marcus left without looking at me. Dante came to my desk, his expression neutral. What did you say to him? I asked. The truth. That Derek was abusive, that you left him to save your life, that his death was a tragic accident caused by his own drinking. Dante's hand found mine, and I showed him evidence of Derek's abuse. Photos you'd taken, medical records, enough to make him understand who his brother really was. Will he stop now? Yes. He apologized, actually. Said he didn't know, that Derek had always hidden that side of himself from family. Relief flooded through me. It was really over. Derek's ghost was finally laid to rest. That night, as we lay in bed, Dante pulled out a small velvet box. I said I'd wait for the right time, he said. But I don't want to wait anymore. Emma, will you marry me? The ring was beautiful, a simple diamond that caught the light. But it wasn't the ring that made me cry. It was the look in Dante's eyes, the vulnerability and hope and love. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on my finger and kissed me deeply. And in that moment, I knew I'd made the right choice. Walking away from Derek, trusting Dante, building this new life. It had all led to this perfect moment. I was finally free, finally happy, finally home. 6 months later, I stood in front of a mirror in a white dress, Maria fussing with my veil. The wedding was small, just close friends and family, held at the Hamptons house on the beach, exactly what I wanted. Sarah from college was my maid of honor, her eyes teary as she adjusted my bouquet. You look beautiful, Em, and so happy. I am happy. Happier than I ever thought possible. Dante's a good man. Different from what I expected when you first told me about him, but good. I smiled. Most people were surprised when they met Dante. They expected a monster and found a man who was fierce but fair, dangerous but devoted. He'd kept his promise about transitioning the family business, slowly moving into legitimate enterprises. It would take years, but he was committed. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked. I looked at my reflection one last time. The woman staring back was different from the one who'd hidden bruises in a nightclub bathroom less than a year ago. This woman was strong, confident, free. "I'm ready." The ceremony was perfect. Dante stood at the altar in a black suit, his eyes locked on mine as I walked down the aisle. When I reached him, he took my hands, and I saw tears in his eyes. "You're beautiful," he whispered. The officiant spoke about love and commitment, but I barely heard the words. I was lost in Dante's gaze, in the promise of the future we were building together. When it was time for vows, Dante went first. "Emma, you came into my life when I'd given up on finding real connection. You saw past what I do, past my reputation, and loved me anyway. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and spend every day proving I'm worthy of your trust. I love you more than words can express." My turn. "Dante, you saved my life in more ways than one. You gave me safety when I had none, hope when I'd lost it, and love when I needed it most. You're my home, my partner, my everything. I promise to stand by you, support your dreams, and love you with everything I have." When the officiant pronounced us married, Dante kissed me like we were the only two people in the world. The small crowd cheered, and for a moment, everything was perfect. The reception was intimate, with good food, music, and laughter. Dante's business associates mixed with my friends from work, everyone celebrating our union. Even some of his family had come, including his younger sister Sophia, who pulled me aside during dinner. "I'm glad he found you," she said. "After what happened to our mother, I thought Dante would never let anyone in, but you changed that. He saved me first." Sophia smiled. "You saved each other. That's what love is supposed to be." As the sun set, Dante and I slipped away from the party to walk along the beach. The sound of waves and distant music created the perfect backdrop. "So this is it," I said. "We're really married." Having second thoughts. He was teasing, but I heard the vulnerability underneath. "Not even for a second." "You? Never." He pulled me close. "I used to think love was weakness, something that made you vulnerable. But loving you makes me stronger." "How?" "Because I have something worth fighting for now. Something worth protecting. You give me purpose beyond power and money." I kissed him softly. "You give me hope. You showed me that I deserve better than fear and pain, that I'm worth loving. You're worth everything," he whispered against my lips. We made love that night in our bedroom, the sound of the ocean in the background. It was different from before, more intense, more meaningful. This wasn't just passion. It was the union of two people who'd found safety and love in each other. The next morning, we left for our honeymoon in Italy. 2 weeks of exploring Dante's family homeland, eating amazing food, and simply being together without the weight of the past. But even in paradise, the past found ways to intrude. One afternoon, while Dante was on a business call, I checked my email and found a message from an unfamiliar address. The subject line made my blood run cold. I know what he did. My hands shook as I opened it. The message was short. "I know Dante Moretti killed Derek Thompson. I have proof. If you want this to stay buried, it will cost you." I stared at the screen, panic rising. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when everything was finally perfect. When Dante finished his call, I showed him the email. His expression darkened. "It's probably a scam. Someone fishing for money." But I heard doubt in his voice. "What if it's real? What if someone actually has proof? Then we deal with it." He pulled me close. "I'm not going to let anything destroy what we have. Not some anonymous blackmailer, not the past. Nothing." He made calls to his security team, had them trace the email. Within hours, they had an answer. The email came from a journalist who'd been investigating Derek's death, a woman named Rachel Chen, who specialized in organized crime stories. "She doesn't have proof," Dante said, after speaking with his lawyers. "She's fishing. If she had real evidence, she would have published it already. So what do? We ignore her. Don't respond to the email. Don't give her anything to work with." He cupped my face. "Trust me, Emma. I've handled worse than this." But I couldn't shake the fear. What if this journalist kept digging? What if she found something that could send Dante to prison? That night, lying in bed, I finally voiced my deepest fear. What if loving me destroys you? What if I'm the reason you lose everything? Dante turned to face me, his eyes fierce. "You're not destroying me. You're saving me. Whatever happens, whatever comes, we face it together. That's what marriage means. But if you went to prison because of me, then I'd serve my time knowing I protected the woman I love. And I'd come back to you. He kissed me softly. Stop worrying about things that haven't happened. Live in this moment with me. I tried to follow his advice, but the anxiety lingered. When we returned from our honeymoon, I started seeing a therapist to deal with lingering trauma from Derek and new fears about the future. Dr. Morrison was patient and understanding, helping me work through layers of complicated emotions. You've been through significant trauma, she said during one session. It's normal to fear losing what you've gained, but you can't let that fear control your life. How do I stop being afraid? You don't stop completely. You learn to manage it, to trust that you're strong enough to handle whatever comes. Over the next few months, I worked on building that strength. The journalist, Rachel Chen, published her story about Derek's suspicious death, but without evidence connecting it to Dante, it was just speculation. Some people believed it, others didn't. Life went on. I threw myself into work and art, finding balance between my career and creative pursuits. Dante continued transitioning the family business, making more legitimate deals and fewer illegal ones. We were building the life we'd dreamed of. One evening, 6 months after our wedding, I had news that would change everything again. I'm pregnant, I told Dante over dinner. He froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. What? I'm pregnant. About 8 weeks. I found out today. For a moment, I couldn't read his expression. Then his face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. He pulled me into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. We're having a baby. We're actually having a baby. Are you happy? I asked, needing to hear him say it. Happy doesn't even begin to cover it. Emma, you've given me everything. A home, love, purpose, and now a child? He kissed me deeply. I'm the luckiest man alive. That night, as we lay in bed with his hand on my still flat stomach, I finally felt the last piece of fear fall away. This was real. This was lasting. And whatever challenges came, we'd face them together. We'd both been broken by our pasts, but we'd found a way to heal each other, to build something beautiful from pain and trauma. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, both of you. His hand pressed gently against my stomach, and I felt tears slide down my cheeks. What are we going to tell our child about how we met? I asked softly. Dante was quiet for a moment. We'll tell them the truth, that sometimes people find each other in darkness. That love can come from the most unexpected places, and that their mother is the bravest woman I've ever known, and their father is my hero. He kissed my forehead. No more heroes and villains. Just us. Just family. As I drifted off to sleep in his arms, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From that bathroom mirror at the Velvet Room, covering bruises and pretending everything was fine, to this moment of perfect peace. I'd been saved. But more than that, I'd learned to save myself. Dante had given me the tools and support, but ultimately, I'd made the choice to leave, to fight for better, to believe I deserved more than pain. And now I was building a life worth living, a family worth cherishing, a future worth celebrating. The bruises had faded, the fear had subsided, and in their place was something I never thought I'd have again. Hope. 2 years later, I stood in our nursery, rocking our daughter Sophia to sleep. She had Dante's dark hair and my green eyes, and she was absolutely perfect. At 18 months old, she was curious, fearless, and loved. So deeply loved. Through the window I could see Dante in the garden with his sister Sophia, whom we'd named our daughter after. They were planning the landscaping for the new community center Dante was funding in his mother's memory, a place for women escaping domestic violence to find resources, support, and safety. It had been his idea, his way of honoring the mother he couldn't save and helping others like her, like me. We'd both become advocates, using our story, carefully edited, to raise awareness about domestic violence. My marketing firm had promoted me to director, and I'd finally held my first art exhibition last month. 12 paintings exploring themes of freedom, rebirth, and healing. They'd all sold, with proceeds going to the Women's Shelter Network. Life was good. Not perfect. No life ever is. But good. Real. Honest. Sophia fell asleep in my arms, her tiny hand curled around my finger. I placed her gently in her crib and went downstairs, where Dante was making dinner. She down? He asked, pulling me into his arms. Finally, She fought it for 20 minutes. I rested my head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Your sister invited us to Thanksgiving next month. The whole family will be there. Do you want to go? I do. I like your family. They've been kind to me. Dante had been right about his family. Once they'd accepted me, they'd welcomed me completely. His sister, his cousins, even his intimidating Uncle Giovanni had treated me with respect and warmth. What are you thinking about? Dante asked, sensing my mood. Just how different my life is now. How different I am. Better different? Infinitely better. I looked up at him. Sometimes I think about that night at the club. What would have happened if you hadn't been there? If you hadn't noticed? Don't think about that. It didn't happen. I know, but I'm grateful anyway. You gave me a chance at a real life. We gave each other that chance. He kissed my forehead. You saved me too, remember? From becoming someone I didn't want to be. It was true. Dante had walked away from most of his criminal enterprises, keeping only legitimate businesses. It had cost him some allies and made him enemies among those who saw it as weakness. But he didn't care. He'd chosen family over power. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Drinks next week? I have news. I smiled. Sarah had started dating someone new, a lawyer named Marcus, who seemed genuinely kind. She deserved happiness after her own difficult past. Sarah wants to meet up, I told Dante. I think she's going to tell me she's engaged. That's great. Invite them to dinner sometime. I'd like to meet this Marcus properly. We ate dinner on the terrace, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. These quiet moments were my favorite. Just us. No drama, no fear, just peace. I've been thinking, Dante said as we cleared the dishes, about expanding the foundation, opening more centers in other cities. That's ambitious. I have the resources and the motivation. He took my hand. I want Sophia to grow up knowing her father did something meaningful with his life, that he helped people instead of just taking from them. She'll be proud of you. I'm proud of you. Later that night, after Sophia was asleep and we'd settled into bed, Dante pulled me close. Do you ever regret it? Choosing me? This life? Never. Not once. I traced patterns on his chest. Do you regret saving me that night? Saving you was the best decision I ever made. Everything good in my life stems from that moment. We made love slowly, tenderly, both of us savoring the connection we'd built. Afterward, as I lay with my head on his chest, I thought about how far we'd come, from that terrifying night when I'd texted him for help, to building a family and future together, from victim and savior to equal partners, from broken people to healed ones. What are you thinking about now? Dante asked, running his fingers through my hair. Happy endings. How they're real if you fight for them. This isn't an ending, though. It's a beginning. Every day with you is a new beginning. I smiled against his skin. He was right. This wasn't the end of our story. It was just the start of the best chapter. Somewhere across the city, other women were probably covering bruises, making excuses, believing they were trapped. I wished I could tell them all that escape was possible, that life after abuse could be beautiful, that they deserved better. But I was telling that story in other ways, through the foundation, through my art, through living openly as someone who'd survived and thrived. If even one woman saw my story and found the courage to leave, it would be worth it. I love you, I whispered to Dante. I love you too, always. As I drifted off to sleep, safe in his arms, I sent up a silent prayer of gratitude, for courage, for second chances, for the man who'd seen my pain and refused to look away. The Mafia boss who'd saved me had become so much more than that. He'd become my husband, my partner, the father of my child. He'd become home, and I'd become someone I could be proud of, someone strong, creative, and free. The bruises were long gone, faded into memory, but the lessons remained. I knew my worth now. I knew I deserved love, respect, and safety, and I would never settle for less again. This was my happy ending and my new beginning, wrapped into one perfect moment, and it was more than I'd ever dared to dream possible. Thanks so much for reading this story. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you could hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. And drop a comment below. What did you think of Emma and Dante's journey? I'd love to hear from you.